Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's been a long time. It's been two Mondays, I think, that we've not been on a date on our YouTube channel, but I have good reason as to why, and I have an explanation, and that's why I'm here. If you're new to my YouTube channel, karibu sana. My name is Kamande Esther. I host this channel and we post content on Monday. That's why it's called Mondays with Kamande. But if this is home for you and if you've been here longer than one episode, then karibu tena. We've been away for about 2 weeks on the channel, but we've also been active on the blog. And if you've read the previous blog, and if you don't, the link is on my description box, on the description box below. But we hinted, or I talked about something that I've been working on, something that is really a project that is really close to my heart, a project that that has really taken me through the motions of, you know, everything, and it's been quite quite an adventure, I'd say. Um, it's been several months of working on it and pouring my heart, pouring my soul, my tears, my joy, everything involved, or everything that makes me who I am into this project. And it's for that reason that we've been unable to record um, any content or anything for the channel. And being in front of the camera really takes a lot from me. It takes a lot to be here, and so I needed to be in the right space to be here. And because of that project, I there's no way I'd have been able to be here and give you wholesome content and give you uplifting and inspirational content the way it's supposed to be. And so I decided to just take a few weeks off from creating on the channel and to just focus on winding up on the project that I've been working on, which I'm so excited to announce today. And I think for me, the journey or this episode is a testament of a portion of scripture in the Bible in Ecclesiastes. That's how you say it. You know what, that book, from chapter 3, it's chapter 3 from verse 1, and it's the chapter that talks about time and seasons. And the Bible says that there's a time for everything. There's a time to plant, there's a time to harvest, there's a time there's a time for to be happy, there's a time for sadness, there's just time and seasons for everything under the sun, or while we're here on the earth. And also there's another portion of scripture, I think in Isaiah, that says when the time is right, Isaiah 60 I believe, when the time is right, the Lord himself will make it happen. And he makes all things beautiful in his own time. And this project has been one of those things that God has used to teach me about trusting him with his timing, trusting him with his plans, trusting him with each and every instruction that he gives and the fulfillment of that instruction. Because this girl, whoa, if I tell you that I'm a planner, I really am a planner. I am those people who plan from the first minute of something to the very final minute of the thing. If it's an event I'm planning, I am really engrossed in it. If it's a project I'm working on, I have a list of things to do, and I like just writing things down and being so hands-on on things and being in control of how things are unfolding in whatever it is that I'm working on or in my life. And that's a good thing. I'm not condemning anyone who's like me, because there's no condemnation for either of us. But that whole attribute of being a planner and just loving and wanting to be in control of things, it really works in other areas of life, but it doesn't work when it comes to God, because the things of God have a specific time and a timeline from him that he ordained and that he set before we were created. And so when you come into the picture, when you're doing things with God, you tend to want to, lay out the script, you want to plan. God has told you to do something, and you're telling God, okay, we're going to do this at this time, on this day, after this many weeks, after this many months. And that's how I approached this project with God. And I've had to learn how to be patient with his timing, because sometimes you want to hit the ground running. That's the kind of a person I am. I get instructions, I take instructions, and I think of an idea and I run with it, and I am so focused on that particular thing, and for me, I want to achieve it. But with God, there are days where we just sit. And when I say sit, I mean like literally just sit. He's not speaking, he's not saying anything, you don't have motivation to do whatever it is that he's asking you to do. You can't move to the next step, you can't do any other thing. He just wants you to stay still. There are other seasons where he'd want to, he gives you instruction after instruction after instruction, and it feels like you're on a sprint. There are times when I felt like I was on a marathon. There are times I felt like I was flying. It's been crazy. So I think I almost lost my mind. But the Lord is faithful. We're here. We didn't lose our minds. I am still here, very sane, still silly, very, very silly, still very, very silly. But I didn't lose my mind. So this journey started in July, I think. It started way longer, way before July, but the actualization of it and me getting my hands on the project started in July. And so for the longest time, God has been speaking to me, and God had been speaking to me about just stepping into what he has really called me to do, and what he created me to do. And the journey goes back to 2019. We were at a conference in our church, and it was a very heavy and a difficult season for me. It was a season where I didn't have a job. I think I've talked about this season in so many story times. You can go through them in other videos, but in a nutshell, it was a season where I was literally, I had lost everything. I had lost my job. I was jobless. I didn't have money. I didn't have a place to call my home. And at that time, I remember just feeling so hopeless and asking God, why am I even living? Why am I even existing? Why do I exist? Why did you create me? Why am I going through all these things? I thought we were done going through the wilderness. I thought after the wilderness, now you go through a season of glory to glory to glory to glory. So why am I going through? Why am I here? I was so lost and confused. But prior to that season, I knew what God had called me to do. I had a glimpse of what he had called me to do and what he created me to do, but it was not clear. And I remember telling him I needed him to confirm and just tell me what he had created me to do, and just show me what my thing was, because each of us, we all have a purpose, and we all have an assignment that we've been called and created and equipped to fulfill. And I remember telling God, I need to find my thing. I need to find what that thing that you created me to do, and that thing that you want to keep doing, and what the main agenda as to the main reason why I exist. And I remember we were in church in a service, and it was one of the most weirdest moments of my life, because honestly, if you know me, you know I don't like being the center of attention. And I remember this servant of God, a prophet who had come to minister in our church, and he came and he started speaking to me. And it's a long story, but he confirmed what God had called me to do, and at that time, he confirmed what I had been asking God to confirm. He spoke over my life, and it was a confirmation of what I had already heard from God, and I just needed a confirmation from God, more like a rubber stamp, like, yes, whatever it is that I've been telling you, whatever it is that you've been hearing in your spirit, this is it. And that prophet Dominic, he did that, and it was amazing. It was surreal at that time. So this is 2019, and I walked away knowing God has called me to be a writer. God has called me to to communicate and to dispense hope and encouragement and inspiration, and to just create content either literal form or on in video form, content that points people back to God and inspires hearts back to God. And that was what God had. That was the vision that God had for me. And when He spoke about me writing, I remember thinking, okay, okay, I can do that. I can do that. But ideally, my main way of expressing myself in writing was through my blog. And I knew, okay, God has said I'm going to be a writer, and I need to start writing. And I knew, okay, I'm going to pour myself into the blog, and I'm going to do all that. But then 2020 came, and we got into 2020, and then I had just lost the first blog. And I remember thinking, okay, God said I'm going to write. God, why am I losing my blog, and why am I unable to start another one? Yet God said I'd start writing, and I'd be a writer, and I'd write. And reconciling what God had said and what the situation looked like at that time was really tough. And for a huge part of 2020, I didn't do much. I didn't write. I was just going through that conflicting season of trying to understand why the platform that I thought I could, the platform that I had that I thought was what God wanted me to invest in, why was that platform now no longer there? And still at the same time, God is still speaking to you and to me and showing me what He wants me to do. And then at that time, I started my YouTube channel, and I'm so happy. We turned one. Just I think 2 Mondays ago, we celebrated 1 year on YouTube. And I remember thinking, okay, fine. If God said I'm going to write, then probably it's just maybe when I'm in my 40s or 50s, or later on. Let's focus on the channel. And then we started the channel, and then months later, we were able to bring back the blog, and I thought, okay, then now, whatever it is that God spoke and what God has been telling me, this is the time. So I went straight into writing. I started writing on the blog. It's enjoyable. I enjoy and I thrive and I love writing. So I remember just thinking, okay, now we are good. We're good. We are settled. We have the blog back. We have the channel. We can do both at the same time. And I felt really good. But then now this year, we're still running the blog, we're still doing the channel. When I was about to go on my break, I usually take just sabbaticals or just long breaks to just spend time with God. And I usually do that around my birthday in July. And I remember just going into that break and into that season thinking, I am now going on leave. The HR in heaven has given me a few weeks leave. I am not creating anything. I am not doing anything. I'm not involved in anything. I'm not participating in anything. I'm just going to be, and it's just God and myself. And for all my life, since I started this tradition, it's always been like that. It's always been God and myself in those seasons, just a quiet, silent time, which is amazing, and I'd recommend and highly encourage you to do that. But now in this particular season, this year, it was completely different. I remember going into that season and immediately God just saying, okay, now because you're not focused on YouTube and you're not focused on with a blog, I need you now to start writing. And I kept thinking, okay, so what am I writing about? Because I can create content and I can store it, I can archive it. Then when we go back to the blog, then I'll go back to publishing them. And God was like, no. I don't want you to, it's not for the blog. I want you to write a book. And we just sat in silence, God and myself, mostly me in silence. Because I couldn't reconcile how I could write a book. I love writing and I can write, but for me to produce a whole book, I just felt like I think God, you have the wrong address. I think you've mistaken. Remember, this is our silent time, so we're supposed to just be chilled out and relaxed, just you and I. Probably this assignment you meant it for someone else, and God's like, no, 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 no. I've been speaking to you, and God was just reminding me of instances in the past when he'd show me. Myself, he'd give me visions of just me writing and signing books, and I at that time I just thought, it's gonna happen later on in my life. So now God is here and he's speaking, and he's instructing on me writing a book, and I kept thinking, wow. And how you know God is really serious about whatever instruction he's giving you is that he comes with the entire blueprint of what he wants you to write. Remember in the Bible when the children of Israel were rebuilding the temple, and God was giving Moses the blueprint. He was telling him about the color of the curtains, the color of the the kind of gold to use, the kind of silver to use, and God came with each and every specific thing that I needed for the book. And he came with the content, he came with the resources that I needed at that time, he came with the people I needed to be handheld in some instances. He brought people around. He brought, when I tell you God just worked everything out, he really did work everything out. And it was a season, the greatest challenge for me was time to work on the book, and God was like, you're not on YouTube and you're not writing for the blog. The only thing you're doing is juggling work and this book, so get to it. And we started working on the book, and it's been a long journey, and it's been a tedious journey, but it's been an amazing adventure. It has been one of those one of those seasons where you go through and you're like, I don't think I can do this. And there has been so many seasons, so many moments in this journey where I would just sit and tell God, you know what, by the way, it's never that serious, by the way. It's never that serious. I am not going to continue with this book. It's breaking my heart. It is tearing me apart. It's a stretch, a complete stretch, and I don't think I can do this anymore. And every time I wanted to throw in the towel, he'd just throw it back and say, you know what? You are going to wipe off that sweat. You're going to rest for a week or 2 weeks, and then you're going to get back to it. You're not giving up. And I remember wondering and thinking, how did I get here? How did I get to this point where I no longer have, you know that instance, that moment where you just can't give up easily. Like you're so into it with God that there's no point of going back. There's no retreat. You've surrendered. There's no turning back. And for me, that has been this season. It's been a season where there's no turning back. There's no going back. There's no throwing in the towel and throwing your hands in the air and thinking and saying, whatever, I'm not going to do this. But it's been an exciting moment, and I'd like to introduce to you the newest addition to Mondays with Kamande, the book. Cue slideshow. This book has been one for the books, and I know that doesn't make sense, and that's a very terrible pun. But pun intended. Yeah, this book is one for the books, and I think I have really been stretched by this book, because every person wants to write something. I believe every writer wants to write something that is going to not only connect with the audience, but you want your book to achieve something. You want your book to really speak to your audience and to achieve the goal that you have for it. My goal is literally just to point people closer to God with this book. And it's a book that is so close to my heart because it's a book about my heart. Pun intended. Again, terrible one. Terrible one. And this book is really, it's one of those things that I've really poured my heart into, projects that I've really given all of me, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually into. This book is really close to my heart because It's about my heart. And yeah, it is a book that explains and expresses and just shows my journey overcoming issues, right? Issues that emanate from a lack of identity, a lack of a stable or a foundational identity in God. And I really struggled with that. And it also mirrors some of the issues that come up or I grew up with, and issues that stem from childhood wounds and childhood trauma that I went through in my life. It's basically just a book that brings you into my beyond what you can see here, and it brings you into my heart. You'll see the situations that broke my heart. You'll see the situations that almost took me out of this earth. And it's a book that I've really struggled to write, because when you're narrating or when you're telling your own story, it's easier telling your own story, but again, it's not easy telling your own story. It's easy telling your own story because you've lived it and you have the experience. You've gone through the experience, so you can, it's coming from the horse's mouth. But again, it's hard telling your own story, because now for you to tell your story, you have to relive those experiences and those situations. And that has been one of the hardest things that I've gone through with this book, but we will talk about it later once you've read it. And the purpose of this video was just to introduce you to this book, to introduce you to this to the newest baby at Mondays with Kamande. And it's such an honor to just turn one on YouTube and on the blog as well. And for Mondays with Kamande to turn one and produce a book, that can only be God. That can only be the doing of the Lord. And I am so honored to be able to share this with you, to be able to share this with anyone who's going through, or anyone who's gone through parental wounds, anyone who's gone through issues in life. This book is for you. This book is about finding your true identity in God, knowing who you are in Christ, knowing that God is your creator, but he's also your father. That's why I called it I am my father. When Moses was receiving the instruction from God to go to Pharaoh to tell him to let go of the Israelites, he asked God, so when the children of Israel ask me who sent me, what will I say? And God told him to say, the I am, who I am, sent you. And over time, we've been taught that God doesn't limit himself to one definition of who he is. He leaves it open. He says, I am who I am. And he says he is I am. And then you can add onto that I am to make him, or to ask him to be whoever or whatever it is that you need him to be. There are seasons where he will be your peace. There are seasons where he will be your joy. There are seasons where he will be your provider, your healer, your banner. He will be Jehovah to you. There are so many seasons where God is diverse. God is not limited to just expressing himself in one way. So he is our creator, but he is also our father. And my life has been, and the greatest way, or the greatest expression of who God is to me, has been him being a father to me, because I grew up not having that in my life, not having a good relationship with my dad or with my father, and I grew up with so many issues that emanate from that. And these issues almost made me lose my life at so many instances in my life, especially in my early 20s. And I remember, had it not been for the Lord just stealing me away and grabbing me away and showing me that what I had considered to be normal and what I had considered all along to be who I am. You know how we walk around saying, that's just who I am, but that's just not who you are. If you take a step back and if you take a moment to just look through who you say you are, and compare it to who God says you are, you realize that there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect from the version of you that God portrays and who you are. And one of the things that I grew up thinking that's just who I am was anger. I grew up with a lot of anger issues, and I was a really angry and bitter girl, a really angry and bitter girl. But I'm introverted, so I wasn't always expressive with my anger or with my bitterness, but I'd see how it manifests in my relationships, in my friendships, in my career, how I would just snap and just act out vengefully towards someone or against someone. And it was, looking back, and when I tell you this book broke my heart, it's because when you look back at certain situations and you're like, yikes, I really did that person. I didn't do right by that person. But in that moment, I thought that's just who I am. But now when you take time to process the things that are in your heart, you take time to allow God to conduct a post-mortem of your heart to show you and to reveal to you the things that are not in line with who He wants you to be. You begin to see that these things are not normal. I didn't know how bitter I was. I didn't know how angry I was up until God just walked me through these issues. And I'm not going to give you the entire book in this episode. I will let you read it for yourself. I'm really hoping that you'll read it for yourself. And I wrote this book for myself, first of all, to show myself that we've really come a mighty long way. Wow, it's been more than 20 years of just dealing with these things and these issues and not knowing how to work them out and deal with them. And I really thank God that I was able to write this book. This book was for me first. And then this book is for you that has grown up with strained relationships with your parents. It could either be your dad or your mom or your guardian, whoever it is that brought you up. There's so many issues that we deal with: abandonment, rejection, self-esteem issues, insecurities here and there, self-sabotage, anger, vengefulness, and bitterness. All these things that we grow up because of not having solid, healthy relationships with our guardians or with our parents, really produce versions of ourselves that are not healthy. And there's a quote I love that says, hurting people hurt others. If you're hurting, you will constantly just replicate the hurt onto other people. And for me, this book is for you. You that has gone through that, you that is still going through that, and you don't know what to do about those issues, and you don't know where to go or where to start. This book was written with you in mind. It's a I'm looking at it as a conversation starter. It's a book that will challenge each and every one of us to reflect at how we've been living our lives, and look at how we make decisions and how we relate with people, and ask ourselves, are we living in a healthy way? Are we living in a way that resembles how God wants us to be, or who we are in God? And if we are not, then what do we do, and where do we start from? And for me, that was just the goal of this book, to have those conversations in the body of Christ, and even for people who are yet to meet Jesus, and to just have those conversations and discuss those conversations. And for me, this book was really important because God was showing me that this process that I went through, Him healing me from these issues. Usually I tell people, I digress. Usually I tell people the greatest work that God has done in my life has been healing me internally. God's healing power is not limited to just healing your hand. Maybe you have an illness that people can diagnose, or you have a stomach issue, or your leg, you broke your leg. Healing power of God is not limited to the physical illnesses or ailments that we see. Healing goes even to your heart. It transcends. It goes and it heals. It just works out the illnesses, illnesses that you have in your heart, the bitterness that you carry around, the broken heart that you have, God's power, God's healing power goes even and works even in issues that are really hidden in your heart. And for me, the greatest work that God has done for life, apart from saving me and redeeming me, has been healing me. And God was just showing me that if at all I hadn't healed from all these issues, if at all I hadn't processed and gone through this process and healed from these issues and just found my true identity in Him, then none of this and none of me would be in existence today. I'd probably be dead, maybe. I would have I'd probably be in a, I don't know, I'd be somewhere just in a psychiatric ward or something, I don't know. Having lost my mind and having just gone through terrible things, because the more you act out of a bitter place, in an angry place, you get yourself into more situations that are bitter and more situations that produce all this bitterness. Anyway, I am really trying to control myself so that I don't give away the entire book, because you'll just come and watch the video and think, she's told us everything about the book in the video, so why bother? But yeah, we will be sharing more details about how you can get the book in the course of the week. You can pre-order. I can't even believe I'm saying people can pre-order my book. It is such a moment. I am in such a moment. And just to bring you back to the scriptures that I mentioned. Sometimes you may be going through a season where you're working on something and God has given you an idea and He's given you a vision that He wants you to work out, and you're wondering and you're thinking, so how is it going to be done, or when is it going to be done? Allow me to encourage you that when the time is right, and not your time, but God's time. When God's time is right, He will make it happen and He will make it beautiful. I had struggled on how to announce this book. I kept thinking, I should do a launch. I should do this, I should do this, I see people doing this, I see people doing this. But then time and logistics and so many things and so many factors were not adding up, and I was losing hope. I was like, okay, God, we've done the huge part of writing the book, so how is it going to get to your people? And God was like, when the time is right, Esther, everything is going to fall into place. So if you're going through a season where you're working on something and wondering, when is it going to happen? This is me telling you, the time is right, everything is going to fall into place, and God is going to make it happen. And please buy my book, and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will be seeing you very soon. And I can't wait to sign a copy for you. I really can't wait to sign a copy for you. And for more details, please be on the lookout on my social media platforms. Our page, Mondays with Kamande, on Facebook, Instagram, Kamande Esther. We are on TikTok, but I don't think I don't know how TikTok works with announcing details, but details are either going to be on my blog, so the link is going to be down below, or on our social media platforms. And I'd really love to sign a book for you. It's going to be a dream come true for you and for myself, and it's a dream come true for me. So yeah, that's the huge purpose update that I had, and this is a story time and a purpose update and an inspirational video all in one. I've done 3 categories of my content in one video. How amazing, wow. But I will be seeing you in the next episode, and in the next episode we'll go in depth into the book and probably just have a few people on set, hopefully. But I'll see you when you see me. But until next time, please subscribe. Don't forget to share this video. Don't forget to tell people that Kamande has a new book. And it's about her and her father, both fathers. That's amazing. And a huge shout out to my dad. And until next time, bye.